everybody, to the 100-Year Lifestyle, where we are transforming health and longevity worldwide so that you and your loved ones can live, truly, truly live at 100% for 100 years and beyond. And I'm here with a great guest, no stranger to 100-Year Lifestyles, become an amazing friend and hero on many levels to me, my family, so many. Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Plasker. Thank you, everyone, for watching and for sharing this this whole cast, this live cast. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today, and it's always great to be with you.
Well, it really is, and you're so cool. I'm just going to tell you, you're cool. Your family's cool. And you're unstoppable. You should write a book about that, which obviously she did. Many of you know her because of that. And, listen, what I think is really amazing and I love about you is you're not afraid of change. And, you said we were going to call this walking the talk. And really what I think we should call it is living on the other side of change, because you had this dream, right? From California, moving and setting up your life. Tell us your story. I don't want to get in the way of it, but I'll fill in. I'll ask some great questions, but tell us about what you have done, because I think it's just amazing.
Oh, please. Thank you so much. And first of all, I don't think of myself as cool at all. I'm just willing to do what it takes, I think. Like you said, I'm not afraid of change. And I think long term, like most women do, I'm sure a lot of men do too, think long term about what's going to be best for my family. And a lot of people are thinking about that right now. And one of the most popular posts ever that I had done was one about thinking about going, maybe not necessarily off grid, but moving somewhere where we could grow our own food, have animals, our kids could interact with the land, they could dig holes and make tree houses and climb up trunks of trees and things, and not just live in a manicured park area. And so many people responded to that I decided that when we did do this, I decided to be, somewhat public about it, because I thought it might be something that people would be interested in and might resonate with and might learn from, or teach me, hey, you're doing this the wrong way and you might want to do that. And, my community would contribute. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Zen Honeycutt, and I'm the founding executive director of Moms Across America. We're a 501c3, a national coalition of unstoppable moms. And our mission, our motto is Empowered Moms, Healthy Kids. But we have supporters like Dr. Plasker, dads and students and people from all across the country and all around the world. And I've been working for a very long time in Southern California on this, almost 9 years. And lived in Southern California for 20 years. I grew up in Connecticut on a big bunch of land on about 100 acres in a small pond. And so I was very familiar with that type of lifestyle. But in Southern California, I noticed over time that things were getting, number one, too comfortable, like very, very comfortable for us. Our days were spent either working or in school. We went to some beaches, which was nice. We did a hike maybe once every other week or something. And a lot of time on Netflix and Amazon and playing video games, a lot of time sitting on our butts on the couch. And the only chores I could ask my kids to do were sweeping and dishes. There really was no outside work. Our backyard was the size of a postage stamp. And we could do a little bit of gardening, but it was very minimal. And I started to feel really just almost like I was suffocating with that comfort and convenience, and really wondering what my children might be missing as far as, doing some physical labor and learning how to build things like bridges and, chicken coops and tree houses and interacting and getting outside, with nature and doing physical labor and things like that. I really started to wondering if I was doing the right thing. And then, as you know, this whole health freedom thing with medical mandates, vaccine mandates, really began to push us in a direction of a huge amount of concern over for our children's well-being and for our freedom and our safety, and being forced to potentially homeschool, even when that may not be economically viable for us or preferable or the best thing for our children, right? And so that was a concern. And then the other concern was 5G. It was being, in Dallas, there's been like 996 small cell units put up. In San Francisco, they're being put up on telephone poles outside of apartments. They're rolling out these small cells, which are antennas for 5G wireless technology in some cities and suburban areas at an astronomical rate, just hundreds of them, going up at a time. And I fought for about a year to keep it out of my city and was not successful. So that was starting to happen, right? And then there were, over the years, learning more about GMOs and glyphosate and what was going on in the food supply. I became increasingly concerned about the quality of water in California. Not to just have this be a bag on California session, but that's what we were living. This is happening in many places, many states across the country. The water quality was really terrible. And when you have municipal water, city water, you're beholden to whatever they put into it. And so that was the concern. And so when it came down to COVID and realizing my kids were on lockdown, it was going to probably be like this for another year. I'm like, well, if we're going to be on lockdown, why not be in lockdown somewhere where we've got land? So we had the opportunity to move, and we found this place in North Carolina and fell in love with it and made an offer sight unseen. And then I eventually decided, okay, for inspection, I better go out and make sure it's the right place for us. So I flew out and approved it. And my husbands and kids came here not knowing what it would look like at all, trusting me.
Well, you know what? Listen, they have a lot of reasons they should trust you, and your comfort at some point, I guess, became uncomfortable. I think a lot of times comfort makes people blind, deaf, dumb, and victims, because we just become unaware of all of the things around us, and we become blind, deaf, and dumb. We don't really understand how all these things around us are affecting us. We get in a routine, and you made this move, and this COVID, I don't even call it COVID or pandemic. I call it the ridiculousness, quite honestly, because so much of it is absurd. And so I don't want to give credit where credit's not due. So let's just call it, for humor me, the ridiculousness of the world. Not just you, but a lot of people have been contemplating change as a result of the things that are happening, taking control over their lives, becoming conscious again. And you said you like change, you embrace change. What was the last straw that did it for you? And then what was it like when you started your journey? And describe the journey along the way for us a little bit, because it wasn't just we picked up and moved. Like, there were a lot of steps that you had to take along the way, and then we're going to get to maybe some amazing pictures and what you're doing now. I want to hear about all of that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think the last straw was a compilation of going outside and seeing my tiny garden like completely dead, because it was so hot in Southern California and the watering system we had was no good. And it was not successful. It was not happening. And then the realization that my son's medical exemption was from a medical doctor that had seen, over her lifetime, tens of thousands of patients, was being stripped away. It was going to be no longer valid. So within a year, we were going to have to homeschool or move out of state. Those were the only options, because it was not an option for me to, suddenly inject him with maybe, 8 or 9, whatever vaccines he had left. He was partially vaccinated, right? It just wasn't an option for me. It was not in his best interest, for his health. And that having the state of California decide that they knew better than what my doctor knew and what my husband and I knew was unacceptable to me. And as much as I honor and admire the people at homeschool, that simply, it wasn't, I just don't think it was going to work for us in California with the tiny amount of space that we had, and and him being such a social person, and my husband and I working so much. That wasn't going to work for us. So then we really thought, okay, if we are going to move, my father always said, make sure you're not running from something. Make sure you're running to something. So I thought, what would have us be excited and inspired to move? Because it is a huge pain in the butt. It's like one of the worst things you can go through as far as challenges and stress and, tedious activities. So what would have us running to something? And to me, there were a couple criteria that was really important to me. One was, I really wanted at least 5 acres, because And I know not everybody can have this, and but I would assert that there is some land out there that is really inexpensive if you're willing to be a little bit further away from a big city. If you're willing to be around, you can get a decent parcel of land, an acre or two, for some pretty inexpensive prices right now. And so anyway, 5 acres, because if 5G was put in, we would have a buffer zone around us. It wouldn't affect us quite as much. And if we wanted to grow food, we could grow, a huge amount of food on that amount of land, but at least 2 acres. I was hoping for at least 2 acres. And then I wanted to have our own well, because we know about the water quality and the safety of the water. And I wanted to be near other small farmers. First, we wanted to grow our own food, but we also wanted to be in an area where there were other small farmers, just to know that there would be food security in the future. I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of the science and the predictions about food prices. They're saying that in the next 4 years, the prices of food are going to quadruple. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure, our minimal income is going to quadruple. So being able to grow our own food, or at least supplement, would be a really smart thing to do, I think, financially. And also, I wanted there to be no Superfund sites around, which are toxic waste dumps. And that's really important to look up on a website on the EPA before you purchase a piece of land, is whether or not there's any Superfund sites. And of course, the state needed to respect health freedom. And so for me, that meant moving to a state that was predominantly red. We don't have a Republican governor, but which is problematic here. So that was a bit of a gamble. But in most of the voting does go in that, does go in the red direction. And I don't want to make this all political, because both parties, there's a lot of problems with both parties. But that was very important to us. So those were the parameters for us, and we looked for a long time. We made about, I think, 4 or 5 different offers on places and lost them because the market is really tight in some areas,
Yeah, and
But there's different. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I love how you said that. Don't just run away from something, run towards something. And I think that's a big part of, and you also mentioned long-term thinking. What are you going to be doing long-term, which is obviously a big part of what we talk about in the 100-year lifestyle, making changes with your ideal 100-year lifestyle in mind. Like, where do you see yourself? And so, as I make that statement, I'm looking at your background there, and that's your property, right?
Yes.
That you have that virtual background.
Yes. Yes, this is a barn. Yeah, that's one of our 3 barns, and we call that the main goat pasture. We bought a previous goat farm, and we never, there wasn't a thing like, oh, we want to go and have a goat farm, but we did want to have animals. We did say, yes, we probably want some goats and some chickens and some farm dogs, and we told the kids they could get more dogs, and they were so excited. And I definitely wanted rabbits, because rabbit poo is the best manure for gardens, because it's a cold manure, meaning you don't have to compost it for 6 months, and it has the highest amount of nutrients. So rabbits are super easy to take care of, and it's just automatic fertilization for your soil. And so we found this property and made a bid on it that day. And I do have to say, before we found this, I got clear about what we wanted. I envisioned it, like you say, with 100 years. You want to envision what you're going to be doing and what it's going to look like. And you want to be clear about that. I think that's the biggest motivator. And that's why we're so aligned with what you're doing, is because you're creating this future for people, which is 100 years down the line, feeling fit and healthy and awesome and contributing to people and living out this great life. So for me, it was like, okay, what does that look like? Well, for me, it looks like having some land where we can garden on it. Maybe we're even teaching other people. Maybe we're welcoming people to, come to our farm. And I envisioned having, tiny houses, or, like a education center, or at least teepees, and we could rent out and people could come and experience rabbits and chickens and goats for the first time, maybe, right? And have them potentially, get interested in having their own animals in their own farm. So the future for us became suddenly just exploding with possibilities, right? And that was a future to run towards. And that's what got my family sort of in line, let's be honest, this was my vision at first, right? But that's what had them be aligned. They were like, oh, we could have dogs. You mean we could have chickens? Could I sell the chickens' eggs? Could I make money doing that? And we are like, sure, yes, you can. Can I build a teepee? Can I build a fort? Yes, absolutely. Can I sleep outside? That was one of my son's parameters. He just wanted a hammock to be able to sleep outside. That's all he needed. I was like, yes, you can do that. And there's rivers and there's mountains and there's no ocean. The ocean's 4 hours away, but at least there's rivers and mountains and lots of land. So that whole future was exciting for them and something they were willing to pack up boxes for and drive cross country. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so, I love that you drove cross country. You stopped in to say hello. That's where we actually met for the first time. You guys started getting adjusted, and at least towards lifestyle care. And then we found you a 100-year lifestyle chiropractor up there in Asheville, right? Or Brevard, Dr. Cam and Natalia, and you're doing amazing things out there. And so, but it wasn't always easy. It wasn't all easy. Like now it's fun. You're on the other side of it. You're living it. But what were some of the challenges along the way that you had to break through when you got to this new property and you got a lot of work to do. So your kids went from sitting on the couch and they went to playing video games all the time. And now there's work. There's a lot of work. And because I saw some of your pictures and you got goats, chickens, roosters, rabbits, and other creatures, and now baby goats, and you got all kinds of things going on there. What was it like? And your bees, I saw you have bees now also, which is so important, so beautiful. So what was it like getting everybody on board? What were some of the challenges in embracing this new life, and how did everybody deal with it?
So that's a good question, because it was definitely a shift. My kids are used to on the weekends, we let them do their own thing. Sometimes we do a family activity together on one day. They do the chores on another day, and we have a family meeting on Sunday. So there's a certain amount of obligatory time, family time, chores, and an outdoor activity. But for the rest of the time, they were, in the past playing video games or talking with their friends or hanging out. It was like their own time. So now all of a sudden we've got, hey guys, we need to put a garden bed down. And we need to go shovel a whole truckload of poop from a friend of mine that has organic, feeds her horses organic, and because we didn't have rabbits yet. And then we need to put soil on top of it, and we need to put mulch on top of that. So there's a couple hours of shoveling that's going to be happening here, and they were not used to that, and so at first they were disgruntled. But what I always try to do is I make my to-do list, and then I only pick the top, one or two or three things. And for one each day, it's one thing. And then for the rest of the week, it's those either the second or the third thing. I do not try to pile in 6 things in one day. I make sure to control whether or not I'm stressed about it. And I make a deal with them. Like, we do this, and then you get to do that. Right. So they agree to it. And so then they're on board and they're doing something new. And what they found was they felt really good after shoveling. They felt really good after chopping down a tree and learning that whole process. They felt so proud of themselves and so awesome when they made a chicken coop. They designed it, and my husband went out with them and bought the wood, and they got the chicken wire and the staple gun and the nails, and they did it all by themselves, and they feel so proud of themselves that they are doing these new things. So I just make sure that I'm spacing out the project so it's not overwhelming. And we do some family research together. Like, before we got the bees, we sat down and watched the videos about bees, the do's and the don'ts, and, the beginner guides and things like that. And so I just try to manage the list so that it's not overwhelming, and I make a deal with them about it. And they get rewards. We'll buy some special foods for them, or they get to
whatever.
Eat, but
right, that's their reward.
Yeah. And I keep reminding them. I keep creating that future with them. Right, like we planted 3 apple trees in I think the second month that we were here, because that's the time to plant them. We moved out in October, and in December we were planting apple trees. In November we planted garlic. We planted 6 blueberry trees also in the winter, and 2 elderberry bushes. And so I would tell them, this is what we're going to make with the blueberries, the pies, we're going to do this with the elderberry syrup, keep painting that picture of what the future is going to look like. And that has people much more motivated to take part.
Fantastic. And, it's exciting to hear you talk about that. There is so much to do. And, you know, so many of us living in the suburbs, watching this right now, you mentioned things like 5G. You mentioned things like the things that, I mean, you ran towards this, you ran away from that. People
Mhm.
aren't, and you write about it. We've posted a lot of your information on 100yearlifestyle.com, your articles, and you can go to momsacrossamerica.com to get a lot of what Zen is doing and what Moms Across America are doing. People aren't aware of the way that some of those things that you chose not to live with anymore or not to be around anymore, how they're affecting people's lives. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing that's really concerning about things like 5G, and which is wireless radiation, close proximity to cell phone towers, and toxins in the food supply, is that they're degrading our health in ways that we mostly are accepting as normal. And that's what really bothers me. People are saying, "Oh, my kids with rashes, or their fatigue, or their behavioral issues." These 1 out of 6 kids has a learning disorder, Dr. Plasker. That's
Yeah,
not okay.
no,
But
it's
they're
not.
being
Digestive
told,
disorders and I
yeah,
mean, yeah, all kinds of things.
they're being told that it's normal, and people will go organic. Some people are going organic, but then their kids are playing 5 hours of video games, and they wonder why they're grumpy and cranky and violent and punch a hole in the wall. Well, because they're also being exposed to wireless radiation. And what we don't know is whether or not these kids are going to be able to procreate someday. The wireless radiation has been shown to kill most of the sperm of the young male rats that were exposed to Wi-Fi from a cell phone. I mean, sorry, cell phone service, for 6 hours a day, 2 3 hour periods, and so that's not okay with me. And to have these cell towers be put up right outside our homes, where I think we're not looking at digital transformation like they're calling it in Japan and some places across the country. We're looking at mass sterilization. That's what we're looking at. And I'm not interested in living next to a cell phone tower like that. And so what we did when we moved here was we got hardwired. We have, let me just pull up the cord so you can see this. So I don't have my cell phone plugged in right now because I'm not using it. It's off. But this is what normally it's plugged into. This is an adapter. This is an Ethernet cable. And so I get these adapters my husband got them for our laptop and our cell phones. And we don't have iPods, but you could connect iPads connected to that. And we plug it into the router, and you can turn the Wi-Fi off then. And you are hardwired, and it's faster, safer, and you are not being exposed to that type of technology. So that was really important to me. But I have to say that it really takes something to decide that you're not going to live with you're going to make that decision to move away from the convenience. Because I know it is so convenient to sit in your bed and use your phone, for hours, or your laptop or whatever. And then to have a cord attached to it is a little less convenient. It's a little bit more of a pain in the butt. I've got a cord running through my bedroom. But this is a decision that, we made because we want to live more by the precautionary principle. And we want to honor and respect the body that we were given, and the cells that we were given, and the opportunity that we have to take care of our health is very important. I have to say, we sleep better. We are outside more now. To be able to drink the tap water from our faucet is priceless.
Yeah.
It is
Saving a
priceless.
fortune on other types of water.
Yes, and filters, and and being not sure if you're getting filtering everything out, and all of that. I mean, the anxiety that I used to have at night, every night, wondering about certain things was, if I went to the beach, was there Fukushima radiation in it? If there were clouds overhead, were we being sprayed with chemicals? Were so many things that are concerning, that cause anxiety, have just been eliminated for us now. And I have to say, I feel safer. I feel less anxious. I'm outside way more, and I'm in the sunlight more. And the animals call to us, in the morning. I figured out why our chickens weren't laying like we were hoping they would be by now, and that's because they need 14 to 16 hours of daylight. So that means opening up the barn at 9 doesn't work if the sun is going down at 7, right? That's not even 12 hours. So you've got to get up and get out and get the sunlight going on the animals, get their vitamin D going, and then you're subsequently getting your own vitamin D going, and you're hearing the birds singing. It's just you're seeing, like, now there's flowers budding everywhere, and I go outside and I see things, and I purchased that app, Picture This, so I can take a picture of the plant and learn what it is. And I'm learning that I have all of these edible herbs and plants all around me in my yard. I've got wild garlic, we've got purple dead nettle, which is good for iron, and I was just told that I'm low in iron. So, wow, here's a plant that's high in iron. And, just all kinds of herbs. I'm learning about nature and herbs and how to use them in tea. I didn't know the violet flowers, the violet leaves that are kind of shaped like a heart, coincidentally, they help to relax the muscles around the heart. So if you have trouble sleeping and you feel, tense, like, that's a good leaf to just dry and use as a tea. So things like that, I'm learning for the first time. And I have to say that when you're sitting in front of Netflix and Amazon and binge watching shows, like most of us do, you may be learning something, but mostly we're just being entertained with a forgettable, with forgettable images, right? Images that we will not remember 10 years from now. And I know that some of times I start watching something and I'm like, wait a second, I'm half an hour in, I've already watched this before. So that means that was a whole waste, you know what I mean? And then I suddenly, you know what I mean? It's not memorable for you. It's forgettable. And so, but when you're learning something new, when you've got bees coming, or when you're going to take care of rabbits, or when you're trying to grow asparagus successfully, you've got to learn how to do that. And so suddenly your downtime is actually learning time. And that's, I think, very exciting and rewarding, and really, it's for me. So I say we're not having a midlife crisis, we're having a midlife renaissance.
Yeah, midlife renaissance, midlife opportunity, embracing your future and living your dream, really. And a lot of people are afraid to make change, that they're stuck and they're afraid of criticism, what other people are going to say, what their friends, what their family are going to say. How have people responded to your commitment to change, to move across the country and take on this exciting, challenging, new adventure, pioneering, adventure that you just embarked on?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, you look healthier than I've ever seen you.
Thank you.
You're glowing from the inside out, and not just from the outside from the vitamin D, but really from the inside out. And how do you deal with the responses that you get from people? And I'm just curious.
Yeah. Oh, well, our friends have just been ecstatic for us. I've had so much love, when I share the pictures of the
They
goats
want to come
and
visit.
chickens.
They want to come to the
Yes,
farm.
and we're inviting people to come visit. I mean, it's just been a wonderful response, and our new friends in the area, they want to come over and see the animals when they're born, chicks and the goats and all that kind of stuff. And it's just opened up so many opportunities for connecting with new people. I made a new friend here that brought me good bacteria, a type of bacillus, a bacillus type of, I don't know. Anyway, a bacteria that you can put on your garden. You can put it in your goat's water. It's a good bacteria. So that's the kind of, I have a friend that got me a milking pail, right? So because we have a goats now with babies. So those are the kind of friends I have now. And my old friends can't wait to come visit, and they're very happy for me. And some are saying, I wish I could do this. And I'm saying, well, maybe you could. There's land out there, and there are ways to do it. And if you don't get your own land, maybe you can convince your church to allow, for there to be a garden there, and get the church members outside growing food. Maybe you have a neighbor that has land, and they'll let you use some of it. There's many successful farms. Primal Pasture is a chicken farmer. He leases his land. He doesn't own it. So, and he leases it for a very reasonable price, because some people who have land want to be philanthropic like that, right? They're like, oh, well, I'm not going to do the hard work, but you could. So there are ways, to do that. And our friends have been very enthusiastic and excited. There were a few people that said, okay, Zen, you're bragging now. Like every day now you got new rabbits, now you get new chickens. And some of us are having a really rough time. And I totally understand that. But I'm going to keep sharing, because there were so many homesteaders that shared before me that inspired me, that I wouldn't have done this if it weren't for some people like, I mean, Doug and Stacy, you know, the homesteading homies or whatever, like they really planted the seed in my mind that you can leave. I think they left San Francisco or Los Angeles and just uproot, and they went totally off grid, you know. I'm like, okay, maybe I won't go totally off grid. I still like the electricity and, you know, stuff like that. So, but people like that who did this before me inspired me, and I don't think they were bragging. I think they were just sharing their lives. And so, I'm just going to keep sharing, and maybe it'll make a difference for some people.
Yeah, you know, I see all your posts and what you're doing, and I don't see it as bragging. I see it as a great example of following a dream. And you know,
Yes.
when you do make commitment, when people make commitment, and we see it all the time. We see it with doctors that make changes in their practices. We see it with people that make changes in their lives. And you know, you do have the tendency to leave people in the dust that are not willing to change. And that doesn't mean you're a bad person for making the commitment to do something that you feel like is important to you. It just means it's, hey, you know what, this is something that I want to do. And how people react is their own personal choice. And I think it's inspiring, you know, to that people watch you and they say, wow, if she can do it, you know, maybe I could do it. And so
Yeah.
it's just a great example of it. And I think what's cool when you do something like this is that you didn't have it all figured out. You're figuring it out along the way. I mean, when was the last
Yes.
time until just recently that you had baby goats?
Oh my gosh, just last night.
Yeah, come on. Tell us about your baby goats.
Oh, we didn't even know. It was all of a sudden my son who was putting down the goats. My oldest one puts them down for the night, and he comes up to the porch and he's screaming, and we're like, "What's going on?" He said, "Sandy, baby goats, twins." I'm like, "What?" No, Sandy was just fat and greedy. Like we just thought she was fat. That's it, because we have a couple goats with it. They have poochy bellies, right? They eat a lot of grass and their belly. And so it was mind blowing. We ran down to the lower pasture where there's a different barn, and she had popped out twins.
Wow.
And they were the most adorable, cutest things. I don't know if I can share, or you're gonna have to let me screen share. But
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, so they are doing fine. We were not prepared for them, so I went online to look at like what are you supposed to do with them? You're supposed to give them B12 and, you know, different shots and vitamins and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? We're not prepared for that. And I think for thousands of years, mamas have been having baby goats. And I think that we're going to trust that they're going to be okay. So we did nothing. We didn't give her anything. And then, you know, woke up this morning and they are totally fine.
And
So
did Mama Goat know what to do?
no, well, yes, she figured out what to do. I mean, nobody told her, but yeah, she
Right.
she
That
figured out
was
what to do.
innate, right? It was inside of her. It
Yes.
was innate, as we say.
Yep, she expelled the placenta and she ate the placenta because otherwise predators would smell that and would come. So that's just what they have to do in the wild. And she took care of that. And the babies were licked clean and they were walking around, and it was like Christmas, you know. It was amazing. So yeah, we're learning. We're definitely hang on a second. Let me just
Try and share it.
Yeah, I'm gonna open this up, and then
You know,
we're
we
definitely
had
learning
while
along
you're
the
doing
way.
that, you know, we had our kids born at home. It was pretty cool to have them born at home. We had a midwife, and you know, what the process is amazing. And what I love about what you're saying and what you're describing is, well, we didn't know the baby goat was pregnant, or the goat was pregnant. She had the babies, and instinctively she knew
Yes.
what to do. And we have become so non-instinctual as human beings these days. We need to, I think, so many of us get back to nature so that we can reconnect with our instincts. And so what are you showing us? This is a picture of what?
So this is the 3 of the garden beds. We need to do 5 in order to have 1,000 square feet, which is what they recommend for a family of 5. And so this is the second one that we're on, in the middle one. The third one, we're letting it sort of the mulch, the leaves sort of break down more before we plant in it. That's going to be later season when it's warmer out. And then we still need to add 2 more. And you're looking at some bean poles back there, and that hill behind us is where the apple trees are, and the elderberry bushes and the blueberry bushes. So that whole tree is going to be, that whole hill is going to be an orchard. We call it Hobbit Hill. And then this is us on the side of Hobbit Hill planting some potatoes. We didn't want to till. We wanted to do regenerative ag, which is to not disturb the soil as much as possible. So we only dug a little spot away for the potato and put the potato down on the dirt. and then we covered it with straw. And so that's my kid jumping around, covering it in straw. And you can see the garlic growing behind there. There's some tall, it looks like grass, but you know, they're little clumps. So there's some garlic growing there. So we have been growing something successfully. And this is the rabbit pen where we put them in a rabbit tractor just in case, you know, hawks come over. They're not just running around in the yard and they can't burrow out and get away. And this was the first time that the goats met the rabbits, which was kind of fun. And we have we had 6 goats, now we have 8 goats, which is a manageable number for us, but the former owners had 12 goats. And one of the type of goats we have is a fainting goat. And they're hilarious because if they get startled, it could be from a garbage can or a dog barking, they freeze up and they fall over. It's like, I know that sounds terrible, but it's actually, you can't help but laugh because it's just so startling and funny. And they're very rare. There's only 10,000 of them. And so we may breed them and sell them, you know, because they're endangered. This is the lower pasture. We call it the great pasture. And right now it's covered in buttercups.
Beautiful.
Where mommy gave birth in that barn in the distance there. And it's just a really huge, nice, lovely pasture. And this is one of our, well, there's 2 of our farm dogs there, but this is just one that my son is putting a hat on top of his farm dog. They're half Great Pyrenees and half Husky. And we didn't know until later that you're not supposed to get a half Husky farm dog because they have a drive to kill. But they grew up around chickens and goats, so they've been pretty good. They've chased them because they're puppies, but they haven't tried to kill any of them. So farm dogs are really important to get to protect your livestock. So that's good. And then here's the baby goats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're
and look, the babies knew what to do. They knew to nurse. Mom knew what to do.
Yep, they knew exactly what to do, and they're lovely and adorable and perfect exactly the way they are. We are not going to vaccinate them. We are not going to, you know, give them a bunch of chemicals. They're going to grow up whole and complete and perfect. And we may steal some of her milk, but not a lot. You know, we're not going to give them formula or anything. So yeah, they're just adorable. And then we've got chicks that we also got not vaccinated. They've been fine. A few of them did die, but not for disease reasons. Just for like one of our dogs got to some, and we put too much. There was some original vitamin mix just for chicks that's all natural, and then we put a little too much in it one time. But yeah, we have 16 chicks now. We had originally another 10 chickens and a rooster, and some of the isn't that cute?
Oh my goodness!
Fluffy headed chicks. Yeah, they're going to have the fluff on top. And we had them in the dining room first, and then we moved them out to the barn. And then this is one of the roosters. It's good to have one rooster for a flock so that he's in charge.
You're going to need a bigger farm soon.
Yeah, no, we're still good. These are lavender Americanas, and they lay blue eggs. So once they start laying, the negotiations have not been successful yet, but once they start laying, they'll be laying blue eggs. And that's me with our beehive. And that was scary and nerve-wracking, but we now have 10,000 bees in a hive, and they are doing their thing. We won't get honey for the first year because you don't want to take away too much of their honey because they'll die. So over the winter, so we probably won't retrieve honey until the second year. But learning about bees is a whole other. I mean, that could be a full-time job in itself. But bees are really amazing. And I only got stung once when I put them in.
With 10,000 bees, only got stung one time. And
yes.
You know, we have a chestnut tree at our house, and we had a neighbor that is a beekeeper, and she put bees underneath our chestnut tree. And there were actually 2 trees, one really big one and one small one that was struggling. And now, a couple of years later, both of them are really thriving. And you know, bees play a huge role. And you know, beautiful family picture here. Tell us about this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's just us. But I said, you know, this is my pre-Mother's Day gift. I want family photos. We went out to the field. Back in California, we had to go out to the poppy fields, you know, along the highway and sort of struggle with 1,000 other people that were also trying to shop like this. But we can do this in our pasture now. And I've got a rabbit. You can't really tell because our shirts are white. My son has a lavender a chicken. My oldest son has one of the big, a previous a small goat, and my other sons my son and my husband have our dogs, and so that's going to be our little Mother's Day gift for herself. And then But yeah, but I wanted to mention, just I threw this last picture in here because if people don't have a farm, I just want to put out there that you can support small farmers and you can support regenerative organic farmers. And we really recommend Doodla Farms. And he's out in the Midwest. And this is because he farms regenerative organic. And if you want to look at our previous Moms Connect calls, you can see him do his presentation on how he grows the beans and the flour. That's a cornmeal. I made the cornbread here, and then a chili, which was amazing. And I have to say, I only had to eat half of that chili because it's so nutrient dense. The whole thing, like usually when we eat chili, the boys go back for 2 bowls, but they only ate 1 bowl, and I only needed half a bowl because it's so nutrient dense. So you can support small farmers if you don't get your own farm, and opt out of this big pharma slash big ag profit circle, which is, it's really making us sick. So on our website, you can, on momsacrossamerica.org, you can find out more about Doodle Farms. And there's a lot of small farmers that are doing the right thing right now by farming regenerative organic, which means not tilling, not disturbing the soil, sequestering more carbon, not using toxic pesticides. And that's the system that we want to support.
Yeah,
So
I love that. And so circling back as we start to wind down a little bit, you said living outside of big pharma, big ag, and all those things. And we live in the suburbs in Marietta, Georgia, and East Cobb. We've got a little bit of land. We have an acre and a half in I think it's the only acre and a half, or one of the very few in our area. We love having that space around us, and living off the grid like you're doing as an activist and as a leader in Moms Across America, and really doing an amazing job with that walking the talk. Talk to us about some of the things that people can get involved in with Moms Across America for themselves. I know you have products that are supportive of people. You're doing really important work, keeping people connected to legislators on important issues. Talk about some of those things so that people can find you, get involved. Maybe they're not going to move across the country. Maybe they're not going to buy a 10-acre farm. Maybe they want to clean up the environment where they are. And you're doing a lot of work
yes.
providing resources that help people do those things. So talk about some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to correct, we're not off the grid. We are still hooked up to the power grid system, and we would like to go solar eventually. So that is something down the road that we'd like to do, but we're not totally off the grid. But we are working towards more sustainable, living, and we do support our local farmers. So we also, we're not raising meat. Our animals are for their poop and for the experience, and their eggs and things like that. We're not killing them. So and I'm not saying that's, people shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying we're choosing not to do that. So but yes, so if people are interested in supporting small farmers that are doing this, we do urge you to go to our website and learn more about regenerative organic agriculture. We are going to be having a campaign to share with people more about that and why that's so important. So sign up for our newsletter. And we have Moms Connect calls on Monday nights, and I talk a lot about the different actions that we have, calls to action. And stop by our Facebook page, our Twitter page. I'm documenting all of this on TikTok now just because it's fun with the music and it's very short. And so if you hit us up on TikTok, you'll see what's going on the homestead, as well as our calls to action. We continue to support the move to protect our neighborhoods from 5G and wireless technology. You can get all the information you need on our website, and we also recommend 5G Crisis, Children's Health Defense, Trust, Americans for Responsible Technologies, and Tech Safe Schools. So if you want to have your kids in a school where they're hardwired instead of surrounded by 24 laptops that are, radiating this wireless radiation, then go to our website. You can find out more information about that. And also on the under action and 5G, stop 5G grids, you can get the talking points to bring to your city commissioners and your city councils to stop that in your neighborhood. And just because I wasn't able to stop it in my neighborhood doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to. A lot of neighborhoods have. There's Elk Grove that got a 500-foot setback so that, these cell towers can't be within 500 feet of their homes. That's great. And they're, Marin County, and I believe East Eaton, Connecticut. There's a Hawaii as well. There's a lot of places that have stopped the 5G from being put in. So you can do it. And the most preferred thing obviously is to stay in your home. and to be able to keep living a life with your community and your friends. I mean, I have to say it was very hard for us to leave family. We have my husband's mother lives there, and our cousins, we have like 13 different cousins, and I've had friends for 20 years there. That was not optimal, to leave our community. We belonged to a great church. We had, sports and friends, and I mean, that was hard. So if you can stay and you can transform your environment, that's preferred. And if you don't have a big yard, like I said, check with your church or with a neighbor or a community garden. If you really want to grow food, try to make it happen where you are first. But if you do want to move, you absolutely can. And if the reason why you're not moving is because you're afraid of change, or you're afraid of the work, or you're afraid of who your neighbors are going to be or whatever, then I would just say take on those fears and figure it out and go for it. I mean, when I'm doing physical labor outside now, lifting bales of straw for the rabbits, or putting in a rabbit hutch or something, when I'm doing physical labor now, I don't need a gym pass. I'm getting stronger, and I do my chiropractic care every week or two. I go to a 100-year lifestyle recommended, chiropractor, Dr. Cameron at Shine Family Practice here in Asheville, and I love it. I feel stronger. My torn tendons have completely healed, and my back is stronger, and I can work right alongside with my kids at the garden. And so taking care of ourselves is first and foremost, and creating that life that you want to have. If this is important to you, if this is something that you want to do, go for it. You may experience, like we have, a goat with a hole in its side and intestines coming out and having to go do goat surgery, or dogs that have holes or a rooster that's mean, or rabbits that were supposed to be girls and ends up being a boy, and now you're going to have baby rabbit. Like there's all kinds of surprises that happen, but you learn with each one, and you grow as an individual. And I think right now, considering what's going on in the world, all the bad news and the projections for all kinds of dismal things, I think we need to be, I feel better being responsible for creating joy and happiness and health right now, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm creating that future, right? That 100-year lifestyle. But I also want to make sure that right now I'm doing what I can to create joy.
Love that. Yeah. A great, inspiring vision for the future, while you make choices in the present to get you there and to enjoy the journey, which is what you're doing. And I'm just excited for you. I'm proud of you. I can't wait to come visit.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe we'll have a 100-year lifestyle retreat up there.
Oh, we've got a big pasture that I have said to my husband, no, we are not going to make this into a garden. We need to be able to have events and tables and like outdoor seating for, an outdoor movie or something someday, movies with goats or whatever. I don't know, but we need to be able to host people here. So for sure, in the future, we would love to do that.
Awesome. Well, I'm so grateful that you took the time to share your story, that we have developed this relationship that is making a difference for a lot of people. You mentioned your Mom's Connect call. We have one coming up Monday night.
Yes, we do, this Monday.
So how can people get on that call?
So if you sign up for our newsletter, if you go to our homepage and click on the home section, that's where you sign up for the newsletter. And then on Monday afternoon, I think it's a little bit after lunchtime, I send out the link and the reminder to be on the call. It's 5 p.m. California time, Pacific time, and 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to have our official dad champion, Dr. Eric Plasker, on with us to talk about, I think it's the top 10 things that you do that can harm your spine, your nervous system, and your overall health. And some of them are quite surprising. And I think now more than ever, we need to be aware of those things that can impact our health and what we can do about it, and get some concrete, solutions. So, and we'll be talking about updates. There's all kinds of things that are happening with, health freedom and with 5G. It's just coming at us faster and much more, backed by big money and big corporations. And so we really have to be on our toes about this stuff and be aware of it. And if you do know about it ahead of time and you do take action ahead of time, you can make a difference. There are city councils and governors and, there are bills being passed that do protect parental rights and health freedom and, people's overall health. So there is hope. You just need to be aware of it and take action. And we're here to support you to do that.
Yeah, thank you. And every voice matters, every mind matters. So everybody needs to step up, get involved. And thank you for giving us an important, relevant place to go. The work you're doing is making a huge difference. And so we are just getting started. Dr. Zen Honeycutt, I'm going to call you the doctor of massive life transformation, actually. Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America. What a great leader, strong leader. Thank you from all of us. And we'll see you Monday night on our Connect call.
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Plasker. Great to be with you.
Take care, everybody. Until next time, enjoy a sensational century starting right now, starting with today. Everybody make a change. You can do it. Zen did it. You can do it. Thanks, Zen. We'll see you soon.